The last time Chief Adetokunbo Balogun saw the Star of Ìfẹ, it was resting against his chest like a heartbeat. Before the night ended, it would vanish without a trace, and 3 months later, it would reappear in the most impossible place in Lagos. If you're new to this channel, just subscribe now, and say it in the comment section. The ballroom at Eco Atlantic glittered like a palace carved from light. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. Champagne glasses chimed in polite laughter. Politicians, oil magnates, tech founders, and old money aristocrats floated from table to table in rehearsed elegance. Outside, Victoria Island pulsed with Friday night traffic, but inside the Grand Sapphire Hall, time seemed curated. Chief Adetokunbo Balogun stood near the center of it all. Tall, composed, dressed in a charcoal agbada embroidered with subtle gold thread, he carried himself with the quiet authority of a man who did not need to announce his power. He was power. Shipping lines across West Africa bore his initials. Real estate towers across Lagos skyline reflected his ambition. When he invested, markets shifted. And tonight, around his neck, resting carefully against crisp white fabric, was the Star of Ìfẹ. The necklace did not scream wealth. It whispered legacy. At its center sat a rare white diamond, cut decades ago by a Belgian craftsman commissioned personally by Chief's grandfather. Surrounding it were smaller stones arranged in a constellation pattern inspired by ancient Yoruba symbolism. At the clasp, hidden from casual eyes, was an emerald fitting engraved with 3 words in delicate script, "For light in darkness." His late wife, Nike, had given it to him on their 25th wedding anniversary. "You build empires for the world," she had said that night, fastening it around his neck with steady fingers. "Let this remind you what you built at home." She had died 18 months later after a sudden illness that even the best hospitals in London could not reverse. Since then, the necklace had become more than gold and diamond. It was memory. It was apology. It was love he never finished expressing. "Chief," Governor Akinwale said, approaching with a wide smile. "You are shining tonight. If I didn't know better, I would say you are competing with the chandeliers." Chief allowed himself a faint chuckle. "Governor, if I begin competing with chandeliers, it means my businesses are no longer profitable." They laughed. Cameras flashed. Speeches were delivered about youth empowerment and economic growth. A charity auction raised billions of naira within minutes. Applause rose and fell like orchestrated waves. At exactly 9:42 p.m., Chief excused himself briefly. He stepped into the private lounge adjacent to the ballroom, accompanied by 2 discreet security aides. He removed the necklace carefully, placing it inside a velvet-lined case. The case went into a secure leather briefcase equipped with biometric lock technology. The briefcase was handed to Tunde, his longtime head of security. Straight to the vehicle vault, Chief instructed quietly. "Yes, sir," Tunde replied. The corridor cameras captured them walking. The hallway was clear. No suspicious movement. No interruptions. At 9:47 p.m., the security feed flickered. At 9:48 p.m., it went black for 12 seconds. When the footage resumed, Tunde was standing exactly where he had been, briefcase still in hand, except the biometric lock had been opened. The velvet case inside was empty. By 10:15 p.m., the gala continued as if nothing had happened. Chief Balogun stood on stage delivering his closing remarks, voice calm and measured, while inside him something ancient and violent churned. After guests departed and the hall emptied, the private security team sealed the area. Tunde's face was pale. "Sir, I checked the lock logs. It was opened using your fingerprint authorization." Chief's gaze hardened. "That is impossible." "Yes, sir. That is what the system shows." "Then the system is lying." Police were called quietly. No sirens. No press. The commissioner himself arrived before midnight. "Chief, we will handle this with discretion," he assured. "No one needs to know." Chief nodded once. "Find it." Forensics show no forced entry. No tampering with the hardware. The cameras. The cameras glitched, Chief finished. Yes, sir. For exactly 12 seconds. 12 seconds is enough to destroy a nation, Chief said coldly. It is certainly enough to steal a necklace. Investigators questioned staff. Caterers. Technicians. Security operators. Every person with badge access was scrutinized. Financial histories were pulled. Phone records examined. Nothing. 3 days passed. Then 7. Then 3 weeks. Chief did not speak about it publicly. When reporters asked about the gala's success, he spoke about educational scholarships. When a blogger speculated about increased security at his estate, he dismissed it as routine protocol. But inside his Ikoyi mansion, the silence grew heavy. One evening, his daughter, Thomasin, visited. "Daddy," she said gently, sitting across from him in the study, "it's just a necklace." He looked at her sharply, not in anger, but in disbelief. "It is not just a necklace." She hesitated. "I know it meant a lot. To Mum. To you." He stood and walked toward the large portrait of Mornike hanging above the fireplace. Her painted eyes seemed alive under soft lighting. "When your mother gave it to me," he said quietly, "she said it was for light in darkness." Thomasin swallowed. "And now?" "Now," he replied, "it is darkness." Behind closed doors, his fury sharpened into something colder, resolve. He doubled the budget of the investigation. He hired a private cybersecurity firm from Israel to analyze the footage glitch. He commissioned independent biometric experts to examine the fingerprint logs. The results only deepened the mystery. The fingerprint used to open the case matched his own with 99.8% accuracy. Yet he had never touched the briefcase after handing it to Tunde. Could it have been cloned? He asked the consultant. In theory, yes, the man replied. In practice, it would require someone with advanced access to your personal biometric data. Meaning this was not random. That word echoed. Not random. Someone had studied him. Someone had planned. Someone had been close enough to predict his movements. Late at night, when the house staff had retired and Lagos traffic softened into distant murmurs, Chief would sit alone in the study, replaying the evening in his mind. Every handshake. Every smile. Every person who leaned in a little too close. He began to distrust familiarity. 3 months passed. The investigation yielded nothing solid. No pawn shop records. No black market chatter. No attempt to sell or move the diamond internationally. It was as if the Star of Ìfẹ had dissolved into air. Tunde approached him one afternoon. "Sir, with respect, perhaps it is time to let it rest." Chief looked up slowly. "Do you let rest the last thing your wife ever placed in your hands?" Tunde lowered his gaze. "No, sir." "Then neither will I." Outside, Lagos continued its relentless rhythm. Deals were signed. Skyscrapers climbed higher. Elections were debated. The city did not pause for grief. But inside one of its most powerful men, something remained unsettled. The necklace had vanished without a trace. And though no one else knew it yet, its disappearance was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of a reckoning. Rain fell over Lagos like a curtain drawn by an impatient hand. The sky hung low and grey, pressing against the restless city. Traffic near Third Mainland Bridge had frozen into a long, irritated line of red brake lights stretching toward the horizon. Inside a black Rolls-Royce Phantom, Chief Adetokunbo Balogun sat in silence. The hum of the engine was soft, almost respectful. Tinted windows shielded him from the world outside, but not from his thoughts. 3 months had passed since the Star of Ìfẹ vanished. The investigations had slowed. Reports still arrived on his desk weekly, but they carried less hope each time. "Sir," his driver Musa said cautiously, "Traffic control says an accident happened ahead. We may be here a while." Chief nodded once. "We wait." Rain streaked across the window in thin silver lines. Through the distortion of water and tint, Lagos looked blurred, like a memory refusing to sharpen. Street hawkers moved between cars despite the downpour, knocking lightly on windows, holding up plantain chips, bottled water, cheap umbrellas. Some drivers waved them away. Others ignored them completely. Then Chief's eyes caught something different. Under the concrete extension of the bridge, slightly shielded from the rain, sat a teenage girl. Barefoot. Knees pulled to her chest. A small metal bowl rested on the ground in front of her. Her dress, once yellow perhaps, had faded into a tired shade of dust. Her hair was thick but uncombed, curling around her face in stubborn defiance of the rain. She was not moving from car to car. She simply Saturday. There was something in the stillness that pulled his gaze. Then he saw it. At first it was only a glint, a stubborn sparkle against the grey afternoon. He leaned forward slightly. "Musa," he said quietly, "lower the window." "Sir? In this rain?" "Lower it." The window slid down halfway. Humid air mixed with the scent of petrol and wet concrete flooded in. The sound of rain intensified. The girl shifted slightly, and the glint became unmistakable. A diamond caught light even on the darkest day. His breath stalled. Around her neck, resting against fragile collarbones, hung a necklace he knew better than his own reflection. The Star of Ìfẹ. His heartbeat thudded once, hard. Impossible. The constellation pattern. The precise spacing of stones. The subtle curvature of the chain. And at the back, though partially hidden by damp hair, he saw the faint green glow of the emerald clasp. There was no mistake. "Musa," he said, voice lower now, steadier than he felt, "stop the car." "Sir, we are already stopped." "Pull to the side." Cars behind them honked angrily as Musa maneuvered carefully toward a narrow shoulder. Rainwater splashed against the tires. "Sir," Musa glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Should I call the police?" Chief did not answer immediately. The girl was adjusting the necklace gently, almost protectively, as if ensuring it was secure. "No," Chief said finally. "Do not call anyone." He opened the door himself. Rain met him instantly, soaking into the expensive fabric of his agbada. He did not seem to notice. Drivers nearby stared. Some recognized him. Whispers traveled quickly through Lagos traffic. "Is that Chief Balogun? What is he doing in the rain?" He walked toward the girl slowly, deliberately. She noticed the shadow first. Then the polished shoe stopping a few feet away. She looked up cautiously. Her eyes were large. Alert. Not broken, just tired. "Sir," she asked softly. Up close, the necklace was undeniable. Even with grime at its edges and slight wear along the clasp, it was his. Chief crouched down, bringing himself to her level. "What is your name?" he asked gently. "Aisha," she replied after a pause. "Aisha Danjuma." His gaze did not leave the necklace. "Aisha, where did you get that?" Her hand instinctively rose to her chest, fingers wrapping around the diamond. "It's mine," she said defensively. "I am not taking it," he replied calmly. "I only want to understand." She studied his face, searching for threat. Rain tapped rhythmically against the bridge above them. "My uncle Say gave it to me," she said finally. "When?" "After my mother died." Chief's chest tightened slightly. "How long ago?" 3 months. The timing struck him like quiet thunder. "Tell me about Uncle Say," he said. "He was my mother's friend. He fixed things. Cameras. Wires. Big events." She shrugged. "He used to bring food sometimes. After my mother got sick, he helped with hospital money. And then? He disappeared. Disappeared? She nodded. One day he came. He looked scared. He gave me this. She touched the necklace again. He said it was important. That I must never sell it unless I was dying. He said it belonged to someone powerful, but that God would understand. Chief felt something shift inside him. Did he tell you where he got it? She shook her head. He just said, "Forgive me." Then he left. The rain softened slightly, becoming a mist. You know this necklace is very valuable? Chief asked. She frowned slightly. It shines. That is all I know. You have not tried to sell it? No, her eyes hardened a little. It is the only thing that feels like home. The simplicity of that answer unsettled him more than defiance would have. Behind him, Musa stood uncertainly. A small crowd had begun forming at a distance, watching. Aisha, Chief said slowly, if I told you that necklace once belonged to me, what would you say? Her body stiffened. You are lying, she whispered. I am not. She searched his face again. Something about his tone made her hesitate. If it was yours, she said carefully, why is it with me? A fair question. I am trying to find that answer, he replied. Her eyes welled slightly, though she fought it. If you take it, I have nothing. The words were not accusatory. They were factual. Chief stood slowly, rain dripping from his sleeves. He looked down at her, small against the vast, indifferent city. You are not nothing, he said quietly. He turned to Musa. Open the back door. Musa blinked. So? Open it. He faced Aisha again. You will come with me, he said. Fear flashed across her face. Where? To a place where you can eat. Shower. Rest. We will talk more. I don't know you. You do not, he agreed. But I know that necklace. And I know you should not be sitting here in the rain. She hesitated, fingers tightening around the diamond. If you try to take it, she warned softly. I will not take it from you today, he said. Something in his voice carried weight, not authority, but promise. After a long pause, she stood slowly. Her legs were thin. She moved cautiously toward the car. The crowd murmured louder now. Chief held the door open himself. As she stepped inside the warmth of the Rolls-Royce, rain still clinging to her skin, he noticed something small but important. The emerald clasp had been repaired. Not crudely. Carefully. Lovingly. Someone had valued it beyond money. Chief closed the door gently and walked around to the other side. As the car pulled back into traffic, Aisha sat stiffly in the back seat, eyes scanning the luxurious interior with quiet disbelief. Chief looked at her reflection in the window. The necklace rested against her chest. Not stolen in arrogance. Not displayed in greed. But worn like memory. And for the first time in 3 months, he felt something different from rage. He felt the weight of a story he had not yet heard. The gates of Chief Adetokunbo Balogun's Ikoyi estate opened without a sound. Tall, black, and reinforced with imported steel, they parted like a quiet command. The Rolls-Royce glided through, tires whispering against the wet driveway. Aisha pressed her back into the leather seat. She had never seen a house this large outside of television. The mansion rose in cream and glass, balconies stretching wide, warm lights glowing from within. Water fountains lined the entrance, their streams perfectly controlled, unlike the chaotic rain she had left behind under the bridge. The car stopped beneath a covered porch. 2 house staff members hurried forward, umbrellas raised. Chief stepped out first. He turned and opened the back door himself. Aisha hesitated. You are safe here, he said calmly. She stepped out slowly, bare feet touching polished stone. One of the housekeepers, an older woman named Mama Bisi, stared for a second before quickly lowering her gaze. "Sir," she asked quietly. "Prepare a guest room," Chief instructed. "Hot bath. Clean clothes. Food." Mama Bisi nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." Inside, the air smelled faintly of jasmine and polished wood. Aisha stood near the entrance, dripping slightly onto the marble floor, unsure where to look. Chief removed his wet agbada and handed it to a staff member without taking his eyes off her. "Have you eaten today?" he asked. She shook her head. "What was the last thing you ate?" She thought for a moment. "Bread. Yesterday morning." He turned slightly. "Kitchen. Now." Within minutes, a tray was brought out: rice, stew, grilled chicken, fruit, and a glass of juice. Aisha stared at it like it might disappear. "You can sit," Chief said gently. She sat cautiously on the edge of a dining chair. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the spoon. She tried to eat slowly at first, but hunger overruled dignity. She swallowed quickly, barely chewing. Chief watched in silence. Not with pity. With recognition. After several minutes, she slowed down, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she muttered. "For what?" "I ate too fast." "You were hungry," he replied simply. She glanced at him, confused by the absence of judgment. "You will bathe after this," he said. "Then we will talk properly." Her hand instinctively touched the necklace again. "You said you won't take it." "I said not today." Her eyes sharpened. "But I will not steal from you," he added. "I didn't steal," she said quickly. "I know." That surprised her more than anything. Upstairs, in the guest suite, warm water filled a large bathtub. Mama Bisi laid out clean clothes, a simple cotton dress and sandals that fit. As Aisha lowered herself into the bath, dirt and rainwater swirled away. She stared at her reflection in the mirror across the room. Without grime and exhaustion, her face looked younger. Almost soft. But the necklace remained. She did not remove it. Downstairs, Chief stood in his study. Tunde had arrived within minutes of the car entering the compound. "Sir," Tunde said carefully, "is that?" "Yes." Tunde exhaled slowly. "How?" "She says a man named Uncle Say gave it to her." Tunde's expression shifted. "Say? You know him?" There was a Say on the Gala technical team. Junior security technician. Quiet. Kept to himself. Chief's eyes darkened slightly. Background. Nothing alarming at the time. Contract worker. Find everything. Yes, sir. And Tunde, this does not leave this house. Understood. An hour later, Aisha sat across from Chief in the study. Clean. Federation. Still cautious. She looked around at the bookshelves, the framed awards, the portrait of Mornike. "Is that your wife?" she asked softly. "Yes." "She looks kind." She was. Silence settled between them, not heavy, just present. "Aisha," he began, "tell me about your mother." Her fingers tightened around the necklace again. "She sold food near Ohota. Small stall. She used to say Lagos doesn't care if you're tired, you must wake up before it does." A faint smile crossed her lips. She laughed a lot. "And your father?" "I never knew him." "And when your mother fell sick?" "Kidney problem. The hospital said dialysis. We didn't have money." She swallowed. "Uncle Say helped. He brought cash sometimes. Not enough." "What did he do for work?" "He fixed cameras. Big events. Weddings. Parties. He once said he worked at a place with very rich people." Chief leaned back slightly. When your mother died, he asked carefully, what did Say say to you? She looked down. He cried. That answer landed heavier than any accusation. He said, I tried. Then he said the world was unfair. That sometimes good people make bad decisions when they are afraid. She glanced up. Then he gave me this. Did he explain why? He said it would protect me one day. Chief stood and walked toward his desk. From a drawer, he removed a printed photograph. It was a high-resolution image of the Star of Ìfẹ from an auction appraisal done years ago. He placed it on the table between them. Aisha's eyes widened. That's it, she whispered. Yes, Chief replied. It's really yours. It belonged to my grandfather. Then to my wife. Then to me. She looked confused. Why would Uncle Say take it? That is what we are going to find out. She studied him again, as if weighing something important. Are you angry? She asked quietly. Yes. At me. He shook his head slowly. No. She nodded once, absorbing that. Late into the evening, investigators began compiling records. Tunde returned with initial findings. Sir, Say Adewale. Age 38. Contracted through Event Secure Systems for the gala. Family. 1 daughter. 6 years old. Status. Tunde hesitated. Hospital records show she needed emergency heart surgery around the time of the gala. Chief's jaw tightened. Cost? 45 million naira. Silence. And did he request financial assistance? Chief asked. There are email records. He sent appeals to 3 sponsors connected to the gala. No response. Chief's eyes flickered briefly, not with guilt, but calculation. Continue digging, he said. Later that night, after Aisha had fallen asleep in the guest room, Chief walked quietly into the hallway. He paused outside her door. Through the slight opening, he saw her curled beneath clean white sheets. Even in sleep, her hand rested lightly over the necklace. Not clutching it in greed. Holding it in comfort. Chief turned away slowly and walked back toward his study. For the first time since the theft, he was not consumed by anger. He was confronted by context. The necklace had not traveled through greed alone. It had passed through desperation. And as he sat in the dim light of his study, he understood something unsettling. The mystery was no longer about recovering stolen property. It was about understanding the cost of power. And somewhere in that understanding, the truth about Uncle Say, and perhaps about himself, was waiting to be uncovered. By sunrise, the investigation had transformed from a search for stolen property into a quiet excavation of buried truths. Chief Adetokunbo Balogun sat at the long glass table in his private conference room, files spread before him. Outside, Ikoyi stirred awake, joggers along the waterfront, distant horns, the steady rhythm of Lagos returning to motion. Inside the estate, however, the air felt different. Tunde entered with a tablet and a thick brown envelope. His expression was tighter than usual. We've traced Say Adewale's movements after the gala, he began. Chief gestured for him to continue. He left the event premises at 10:03 p.m. That aligns with the camera glitch window. He did not return to his apartment that night. Phone signal places him at a private clinic in Surulere. The surgery? Chief asked. Yes. His daughter was admitted earlier that week. And payment? Tunde hesitated. The hospital received a large anonymous transfer the following morning. Full surgical cost. 45 million naira. Chief looked up sharply. Anonymous? Yes, sir. The account was routed through 3 shell entities before landing in the hospital's account. Track it. We did. Tunde tapped the tablet and rotated it toward Chief. On the screen was a financial diagram, clean lines mapping transactions between accounts. The final origin account bore a name that made the room go still. Colonel Balogun Holdings. Chief's younger brother. For a long moment, Chief did not blink. "That is impossible," he said quietly. "We verified it twice." Colonel was not merely family. He was business partner, political ally, confidant. He had overseen security contracts for multiple Balogun events, including the gala. "And the camera glitch?" Chief asked, voice measured. Tunde swallowed. "We had the cybersecurity firm re-examine the raw data. The disruption was manually triggered from a secondary access point." "Whose access?" "Administrative override credentials assigned to Colonel's operations office." Silence pressed against the walls. Chief leaned back slowly. "Explain," he said. Tunde spoke carefully. "It appears Say did not act entirely alone. He may have taken the necklace, but the 12-second blackout required authorization beyond his level." "And Colonel's motive?" "That we do not yet know." Chief stood and walked toward the wide window overlooking the estate garden. Morning sunlight cut across the grass in clean lines. Birds moved freely between trimmed hedges. Behind him, the weight of betrayal settled without noise. "Does Colonel know we are aware?" Chief asked. "No, sir." "Good." Later that afternoon, Colonel Balogun arrived at the estate at his brother's request. He walked in with his usual confident stride, navy suit crisp, smile practiced. "Big brother," he greeted warmly. "You sounded urgent." Chief did not return the smile. They sat across from each other in the study. "Do you remember the night of the gala?" Chief asked. Colonel chuckled lightly. "Of course. Biggest fundraising event of the year. We outdid ourselves. The necklace disappeared that night." Colonel's expression shifted into rehearsed concern. "Yes. Tragic situation. Still no leads." Chief placed the financial transfer document on the table. Colonel glanced down casually at first. Then his face tightened almost imperceptibly. "What is this?" he asked. "You tell me." Colonel leaned back slowly. "You're accusing me of something." "I am asking why 45 million naira left one of your holding accounts the morning after the gala and ended up paying for Say Adewale's daughter's surgery." Colonel's jaw hardened. "You investigated my accounts. You authorized the camera override." Colonel did not respond immediately. Outside, wind moved lightly through palm trees. Finally, he exhaled. "Say came to me," Colonel said. "He begged. Said his daughter would die. I told him the company could not publicly fund individual emergencies. It sets a precedent. So you helped him privately. I told him I would see what I could do. And instead, you erased camera footage." Colonel's voice sharpened. "I did not tell him to steal." "But you knew." A pause. "I suspected," Colonel admitted quietly. Chief's eyes darkened. "You suspected he would take it," Chief said slowly, "and instead of stopping him, you created an opportunity." Colonel's composure cracked slightly. "It was just jewelry." The words hung in the air like an insult. "It was not just jewelry," Chief replied. Colonel leaned forward. "Adetokunbo, look at the bigger picture. A child needed surgery. You would not have approved 45 million naira for a technician. You never asked me. And risk embarrassment? Risk appearing soft? We built this empire on discipline." Chief's voice remained calm, but something within it changed. "Discipline is not cruelty." Colonel shook his head. "You are emotional because of more Nike. I understand. But sentiment does not build nations." "And theft does?" Chief countered. Colonel's silence was answer enough. Upstairs, Aisha stood quietly outside the study door. She had not meant to eavesdrop, but raised voices carried. She heard fragments. Camera override. Just jewelry. A child needed surgery. Her hand tightened around the necklace. Inside, Chief stood. You covered up a crime, he said evenly. You compromised my security. You betrayed my trust. Connell rose as well. I saved a child's life. And condemned a man to fear, Chief replied. Where is Say now? Connell looked away. You don't know, Chief concluded. No. The room fell silent again. For 3 months, Chief said, I have hunted a necklace. I interrogated loyalty. I questioned my own staff. All while you sat across from me at dinner. Connell's voice softened slightly. I thought it would disappear quietly. It did not. Chief moved toward the door. Effective immediately, he said without turning, you are removed from all operational oversight within Balogun Holdings. Legal will formalize it by evening. Connell's breath hitched. You would destroy your own brother over this. Chief paused. No, he said. You made that decision yourself. He opened the door and saw Aisha standing there. For a second, no one spoke. She looked from one man to the other. Is Uncle Say in trouble? She asked softly. Chief knelt slightly to meet her gaze. No, he said. He made a mistake out of fear. But he also loved someone enough to risk everything. She nodded slowly. And the other man? She asked, glancing toward Connell. Chief looked at his brother. The other man, he replied carefully, forgot that power does not excuse silence. Aisha absorbed that quietly. That evening, official statements were drafted. Internal restructuring began. No scandal reached the press, but within corporate circles, the shift was seismic. As the sun set over Lagos, Chief stood alone once more in his study. The truth had surfaced. Not as a simple crime, but as a mirror. The necklace had traveled through grief, desperation, and betrayal, revealing fractures within his own house. Yet for the first time since it vanished, clarity replaced confusion. He understood now how it left. He understood who allowed it. And more importantly, he understood what must change. The morning after Connell's removal from operational control, Lagos woke to quiet tremors within elite business circles. No headline screamed scandal. No television debates dissected betrayal. But those who understood power dynamics felt the shift immediately. Contracts paused. Board members whispered. Investors watched carefully. Inside the Balogun estate, however, something far more significant was unfolding. Aisha stood in front of a full-length mirror in the guest room, wearing a neatly pressed sky blue dress selected by Mama Bisi. Her hair had been braided simply. Her face, no longer shadowed by exhaustion, carried cautious curiosity. The necklace rested against her collarbone. She stared at it for a long moment. A soft knock came at the door. Come in, she said. Chief Adetokunbo Balogun stepped inside, dressed in a simple white kaftan. No entourage. No visible authority, just a man. You look different, he observed. She glanced at the mirror again. I feel different. That is good. He walked toward the window, drawing the curtain slightly to let in sunlight. Aisha, he began, today I will make a decision. But before I do, I want you to understand something. She turned to face him. That necklace, he continued, was created by my grandfather. It passed to my wife before she died. When it disappeared, I believed someone had attacked my legacy. She listened quietly. But over the past 2 days, he said, I have learned it traveled through fear, through love, and through sacrifice. She swallowed. Uncle Say didn't mean to hurt you. I know. They stood in silence for a moment. If you take it back, she said carefully, I won't fight you. He studied her face. But I will miss it, she added softly. Later that afternoon, Chief convened a private press briefing at his corporate headquarters in Victoria Island. Invitations were limited. Cameras were permitted, but only for the official statement. Executives, journalists, and foundation leaders gathered in the minimalist auditorium. Chief stepped to the podium. Behind him, projected on a large screen, was an image of a diamond constellation. For months, he began calmly, a personal family heirloom known as the Star of Ìfẹ was missing. Murmurs rippled gently through the room. I chose silence while investigations were conducted. During that time, I learned something greater than the value of any jewel. He paused. In our pursuit of wealth and influence, we sometimes fail to see the suffering standing directly before us. The audience shifted, listening more closely. Today, I am announcing the establishment of the Star of Ìfẹ Foundation. The screen changed to display the foundation's mission statement, supporting abandoned and vulnerable children across Nigeria through education, healthcare, and housing initiatives. This foundation, Chief continued, will commit an initial endowment of 5 billion naira. Gasps, then applause. But more importantly, he said, voice steady, it will operate with compassion before calculation. After the briefing, as reporters shouted questions, Chief stepped away without further comment. That evening, back at the estate, he found Aisha seated under a large mango tree in the garden, reading a children's book provided by one of the tutors already arranged for her. She looked up as he approached. Were there many cameras? She asked. Yes. Did they ask about me? They did. What did you say? That you are under my protection. Her eyes widened slightly. He sat beside her on the garden bench. Aisha, he said, I have decided that the necklace will remain with you. She froze. You are not taking it, she whispered. No. Her hand instinctively covered it again, but this time not in defense, in disbelief. Why? She asked. Because it survived something important, he replied. It survived fear without becoming greed. It survived loss without becoming hatred. She did not fully understand the weight of those words, but she felt their kindness. But on one condition, he added. She stiffened slightly. What condition? You will attend school. Properly. You will study. You will build a life where you never sit under a bridge again. Her eyes filled with tears she did not try to hide. I don't know how to do those things, she admitted. You will learn. She nodded slowly. An uncle say, she asked. We are still searching for him, Chief said. But his daughter survived surgery. That matters. Aisha smiled faintly. Days turned into weeks. Tutors arrived. Medical checkups were completed. A room once reserved for distant relatives became hers fully, painted in soft cream, decorated with books and simple art. Chief observed quietly as transformation took root. She asked questions constantly. Why do some people have so much and others nothing? Because systems are imperfect, he replied once. Can systems change? Yes. Who changes them? People who understand both sides. She thought about that for a long time. One evening, Thomasin visited again. She met Aisha in the living room. So you're the famous girl, Thomasin said playfully. Aisha shifted shyly. I didn't mean to be famous. Thomasin laughed gently. Trust me. It happens when you least expect it. Later, alone with her father, Thomasin asked quietly, are you sure about letting her keep it? Chief looked toward the hallway where Aisha's laughter echoed faintly. Yes. Doesn't it hurt? It used to, he admitted. Now it reminds me of something larger. What? That legacy is not what we hold. It is what we release. Outside the estate walls, the Star of Ìfẹ Foundation began its work, funding surgeries, building transitional housing centers, sponsoring school fees for children who once stood unnoticed at traffic lights. Chief visited one of the early housing sites personally. He walked through unfinished rooms, speaking with architects and social workers. This must not become charity for display, he instructed. It must become structure. Months passed. Kunal relocated quietly abroad, his influence reduced but not publicly disgraced. Internally, accountability had been enforced. Systems were redesigned. Oversight strengthened. One evening, nearly a year after the gala, Aisha stood once more beneath the mango tree. She was taller now. Confident. Book stacked beside her. Chief joined her. "Uncle," she said, using the title for the first time. He paused slightly at the word. "Yes?" "When I grow up," she said thoughtfully, "I want to become a lawyer." He smiled faintly. "Why?" "So that when powerful people forget to ask for help, someone will remind them." He looked at her for a long moment. "That," he said quietly, "would make your uncle say proud." She touched the necklace lightly. "And you?" she asked. He nodded once. "Yes," he said. "Me too." The Star of Ìfẹ still shone when light struck it. But its meaning had shifted. It no longer represented only inheritance. It represented choice. And in choosing mercy over anger, Chief Adetokunbo Balogun had recovered something greater than a lost jewel. He had recovered perspective.